Most terrifying horror manga ever created. What makes a good horror story? Is it the psychologically disturbing triggered by grotesque body parts and haunted mansions? The hopelessness we like to see portrayed by the characters in the story? Or the unsettling and suspenseful atmosphere created by the narrative and drawings that even make you look over your shoulder a couple of times? A good horror story frightens and disturbs, it is scary and induces dread, but most importantly, it fascinates us in the instinctive responses it provokes in us. I hope that these horror manga recommendations will invoke that fascination as they contain various themes of terror, from the occult to psychothrillers, from supernatural manifestation to natural deranged psychologies. PTSD Radio. A grandmother shaves off her granddaughter's hair as the latter cries. A woman confronts her ex-lover as her bald head gets pulled back, and an old stone idol sits on overgrown grass, waiting to accept offerings of the dead. The common denominator between these seemingly at first unintertwined stories is hair, more precisely, old Japanese mythology surrounding hair traditions and curses. If you appreciate Japanese folklore-based horror, you will immensely enjoy this unsettling manga whose panels are often quite fear-inducing and downright scary. Ankoku Jiten, also known as Dark Dictionary. Ankoku Jiten is an episodic-style horror manga, with one common thread linking the overall fabric together. Every chapter begins with someone reading a chapter of a book called The Dark Dictionary, and the horror story it depicts unfolds. This is a very old-school treatment of the genre with no deep plot or character development. The short stories are freaky, and fans of horror are sure to appreciate them. Expect ghost stories, gore, insects, and serial killers. Melvina's Therapy. During her therapy sessions with a diverse array of people, psychiatrist Melvina helps to unlock the deep emotional trauma of her patients. Her clients have some of the craziest, scariest anxiety-inducing stories I've ever read about, and you will be scared at various points of your reading, I can almost guarantee this. At first, it seems like every patient story is different and that this manhwa is episodic, but if you're careful in observing the details, and as you read the author's explanation at the end of specific chapters, you will knit together the bigger story which itself is terrifying. Fans of horror. Look out for a sea of Easter eggs referring to diverse horror books and movies throughout the panels. Blood on the tracks. Mundane life turns into slow-paced dread and terror in this psychological horror manga. The premise is simple. Seichi Osabi lives with his mother, who is often dubbed as overprotective. Her overprotectiveness is not that simple, as it is actually tinged with mental illness, manipulation, and moral decay. No ghosts or demons mark the pages of this work. Instead, intricate facial details depicting contorted expressions emanate feelings of morbidity and eerie insidiousness. Hideout. After the death of his son and a year of continuous downfalls, Seichi Kirishima decides to take an island vacation with his wife with the ultimate plan of killing her to reclaim and restart his life. His scheme meets an obstacle, shockers, as he gets lost in a cave while attempting to assassinate her. Albeit the cliché-ridden plot, Hideout is an intense story depicting a man's downfall into insanity. The real appeal of this manga is in its illustrations, sharp dark tones and landscapes of true terror that will make you tremble as you scroll down your screen or flip a page. Bastard. Son Jin's father is a successful businessman, a good Samaritan, and an excellent parent. But that is just a facade he gives to the world, for, in reality, he is a deranged serial killer who uses his son as his unwilling accomplice. Bastard is a master in suspense and unpredictability, mixing in genres not typically associated together, horror and romance, for example, and interlacing different aspects of the plot in a way that makes it almost impossible for the reader to get bored. This psychological horror is sure to induce an array of emotions, one of them being fear. Dragonhead. The story outlines the aftermath of a violent train wreck which results in Teru, the main character, finding himself trapped in a dark tunnel alongside various dead bodies scattered throughout the premises. Survival culminates into madness as the stench of death and decay blends with hunger, sweat, and fear. This is a tale of palm-sweating horrifying tragedy and induced claustrophobia. This man. Death to those who see that face. This manga is based on an urban legend, which began when a woman told her psychiatrist that she had been seeing the face of a man she had never met before in her dreams. More than 3,000 people all over the world have claimed to see this man while dreaming since. In present-day Japan, Hikaru Amano, an investigator who works with facial composites, is asked by a mother and daughter to draw the face of a man who illegally trespassed on their premises. He comes up with the face of this man. The story of a serial killer begins to unfold. Miruko-chan. No absolute darkness, nor plot twists here. Be gone depth-seeking readers, for this horror manga, while scary mainly relies on jump scare and humor for its charm. Miruko-chan is a collection of chapters involving Miko, a typical high school student who can see monsters. Despite her utter terror and state of fear when encountering them in her day-to-day life, she chooses to put on a very flat and unimpressed face, deciding to pretend not to see them. What makes this series stand out is its unconventional approach to the paranormal and its spectacular drawings of ghosts and monsters, as they are some of the most horrifying on this list. Karadasagashi. Karadasagashi is basically the manga version of hide and seek if the hidden entities were dismembered body parts and you were seeking them while being hunted down by a murderous girl covered in blood. At the stroke of midnight, a gang of high schoolers are teleported to their school and must search for 8 pieces of their classmate's body in order to leave. If they don't find the pieces, they get murdered and must start all over again the next night. This isn't the most original plot in the world, but it's scary, it's horror, it's entertaining and well drawn, and it might give you some lovely ideas for your next hide and seek game. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and would like to see more similar video, hit the likes.